Now talked about the principle of opportunity cost, the idea of thinking at the margin, principle of voluntary exchange, and now we're going to talk about the principle of diminishing returns. The principle of diminishing returns is the definition is suppose output is produced with two or more inputs, and we increase one input while holding the other inputs or inputs fixed. Beyond some point called the point of diminishing returns, output will increase at a decreasing rate. I think the easiest way to explain this is to give an example. Suppose I had a shipping company and we had, let's say, 10 trucks. And each truck needs one driver. And let's suppose I have 5 drivers right now. That means if I add a 6th driver, I can assign them to a truck and my output will increase. If I add a 7th driver, my output will continue to increase, probably at the same rate since I have a truck assigned for that person. Now let's suppose I have 10 drivers and 10 trucks, and I now add an additional driver. Well, I don't have a truck for that driver, so if I don't increase my inputs, the capital inputs, that is the trucks, then adding the additional driver won't bring the same amount of returns to my production. I might be able to include the 11th driver, and they could possibly do some loading of trucks, or they could do something else that might help the production. But in theory, adding that 11th driver without adding an 11th truck will cause the returns to increase, but at a diminishing rate. And that is actually true for almost any example I can give you where we have production. And I think in the textbook they talk about the idea of if you have a facility and you add workers but you don't add machinery. So if you keep adding workers but you don't add additional machinery, then you're just spreading the same amount of machinery over a larger number of people. And if you don't have don't have enough people, sorry, if you have too many people to operate the equipment efficiently, then you're just adding labor resources inefficiently. And what that's going to happen is as you add additional labor, you're going to have diminishing additional returns because the labor can't be productive without the capital. So that also works in the reverse. If I didn't have enough employees, let's say I only had 5 employees and I had equipment for the 5 employees, and then I added more equipment, and I still had the 5 employees, then adding more equipment without adding an additional employee would also cause my returns to increase, but at a diminishing rate.